What is going on, you guys? My name is Rayge and we are back today with a quick deep dive review video in regards to the upcoming event here for the upcoming release of Cosmo. So if you guys check the events right now, the To Infinity event, as you can see, time recording 1 day 12 hours. It's going to be the first opportunity for us, especially free to play, in being able to unlock shards of Cosmo, adding her to the rest of the Nowhere team. Having said that, when you hit preview, it does give you a breakdown in regards to how it's going to be laid out in terms of the campaign. So very similar to how we have campaign structured in the game itself. There's gonna be 3 different difficulties here, kind of similar to the incursions that we've done: easy, hard, and heroic. And the big one being the hard and heroic areas, just because they are going to be the 2 stages where additional shards of Cosmo are going to be available, in addition to obviously having intergalactic characters being involved. Now, it's going to be similar to kind of what we see with campaigns where we're going through, and only difference is we're going to be getting fragments farming. So just taking a look at my campaign here, let's just use Heroes Assemble. Similar to these nodes, when you're farming them, instead of having, for instance, the gold orb fragments, we're going to be getting the intergalactic orb fragments. So going through that motions and farming that on a day-to-day perspective. Last time I checked on the blog post, it did say that they decreased it from 14-day event to 7 days. So we're going to have a pretty notable time frame in terms of getting that. But you can see the intergalactic orb now has officially been also added here into the supply store, so you can check it out. 500 cores per orb, or again those 2,000 fragments that we will be building up in the span of a week. So if we hit get here, additional eye for details, we can see in terms of what other character shards are going to be available here. So we got Cosmo obviously, but let's see what's part of the common drops. Usually they're part of the intergalactic or traded featured characters, so you can see here that's basically what's happening here, and obviously Cosmo having the higher percentage of the drop rates. If we take a look and zoom out now as well, just seeing her shards, there's gonna be a 70 chance to get 1 shard of her on one of the pillars, and then conversely on the left side 1. So we're gonna be getting a bare minimum of at least 2 shards of Cosmo per orb, and it can be ranging up from 2 to 4 for the guarantees. And then obviously the middle pillar having that RNG factor, that luck of getting additional shards of Cosmo. So overall, guys, unfortunately there's not too many featured characters outside of Cosmo in this orb, so I'm not a fan of that. But let's go ahead, let's deep dive in terms of what this intergalactic roster is going to be looking like in terms of availability, for how some potential team synergies and combinations that we can utilize. So I also started Cosmo here just in case you guys already do have her unlocked. She is also part of that intergalactic trait. So yes, even before she's officially released into the game free to play, if you have her unlocked and built up, you can also use her as well. So that's just food for thought there, guys. Having said that, there's a couple of obvious combinations when we go through. These are all the intergalactic characters available to us, but I mean, some notable synergies, definitely. But I'm going to talk about some of the more common characters that are likely leveled up, so we can utilize already value that we've invested in, and as well some other theory crafting opportunities. So I think the most obvious, guys, Abomination and She-Hulk. A lot of folks will likely have these 2 built up just because they're part of that meta gamma team, obviously needed for the unlock of Apocalypse. With them being a horseman team, they're going to be naturally higher than a lot of your other characters. If you don't have them built up, I wouldn't worry about building them up for this event, because there's a lot of great other combinations. But we're going to like the damage that's coming from Abomination, in addition to She-Hulk's protection and cleansing. But unfortunately, they are just going to be like a dynamic duel. There's not really any other gamma characters that we can utilize here, so they're going to be kind of sitting as a dual combination. But very good, because one's offensive and the other one's defensive, which is really, really good for us. A strong standalone character. So there's a few combinations here that I'll mention, but I also wanted to point out there's another dynamic duel in Valkyrie, as well as Mighty Thor. These 2 being part of the Heroes as Guardians, they're going to have some synergies with each other. But again, one being offensive and the other being defensive, you want to be mindful kind of how you're slotting in your team characters. As well, they're not really a meta team in the game, so if you don't have Valkyrie or Mighty Thor built up, it's not going to be the end of the world. I just have them because naturally going through the Scourges, unlocking, obviously, they were built up just to push further, but you don't need them built up if you just take your time with the Scourges anyways. And those are the combinations for dynamic duels, guys. I don't want to point out Groot, Rocket Raccoon, and Star-Lord just because I feel like a lot of players won't have them built up. If they are built up, you likely would have brought them up for maybe Nowhere Heist, just bringing them up in terms of getting their value. But, if you're a strong endgame player, you probably will have them built up, but most of us transitioning mid-game to end-game, those 3 aren't going to be worthy just because of the fact that they don't have a lot of end-game stay, and it doesn't really make sense to invest in characters that don't have that end-game value. So I would not recommend it. If you have them built up, it could be a great combination, but if you don't worry about investing in them, guys, because there's other better characters here. Probably one of the strongest offensive options here is Gamora with her offensive capabilities, and thankfully she does have Adam Warlock being in this mix as well, so they can have the synergies being in the Infinity Watch. But what's cool about Gamora is that if you are planning to bring in the Guardians, that being Rocket Raccoon, Star-Lord, and Groot, she's also a Guardian, so she's gonna have some dual synergies there. But again, hands down, probably the strongest offensive option, so I'm definitely gonna bring her on just because she can do quite a bit of damage, and as well, Adam Warlock having his supportive capabilities. They don't get the full value of the Infinity Watch synergies, but I mean, even having these 2, likely folks will have them built up with Infinity Watch, so you're gonna get some value there for sure. And then some of the better kind of standalone characters, I like to point out Adam Warlock and Gamora by themselves, because I don't feel like you need both of them together, kind of like with She-Hulk and Abomination and Valkyrie and Mighty Thor. They're better standalone. Even if you wanted to just bring in Adam Warlock for support, you may not need Gamora, so that's why I wanted to bring that up. Other strong one-off guys is Hela. She can spread negatives. She's got Greg that can soak up damage. Her special and being able to apply disruption. Just a great standalone character, especially if you guys have worked her up with the Undying team, Zombie Iron Man. So always a great slotting character regardless of which team she's in, just because she can spread negative conditions. And again, having an extra 6 Mender can soak up damage and protect the team as well. We got Minerva here, so it depends on where your guys' team is kind of at, but she's really brought in as regenerative capabilities, with her having healing and support, as well as a revive if it's needed. So if you find that you're having issues keeping all your characters alive, or maybe one of them falls closer to the end, Minerva might be the answer for you here, just because she has that additional supplementation of regen, and she can also revive for that cushion. And then, other than that, guys, a strong notable mention here will probably be Yo-Yo. I don't have her built up as high as the rest of the team because, to be honest, she doesn't need to be that high to be effective. And that's because she has a strong passive here in being Swift Protector. If on the enemy turn, if there's no other protector on your side, she's going to be actually applying offense down to the enemy. And this attack cannot be dodged. So she can add a lot of natural kind of passive protection by applying those offense downs. But keep in mind, you can't have another protector on the team. So that means I think if you use a character such as She-Hulk, that's going to actually cancel out. So just be mindful of that combination there. But I don't think this is the worst kind of combination in terms of the roster that we have. Other than that, I wouldn't recommend, like I said, the Guardians or Crystal, the Kree, Ronan, as well as Mr. Fantastic. They just don't have any endgame stay right now. But the good news is there is some strong, 5 to 7 characters, and a lot of players will likely have, like I said earlier, Gamma built up, Infinity Watch built up. And Miss Marvel is kind of an awkward place because she really thrives off of, the Young Avengers, but she can have that synergy with Yo-Yo as well. But again, just because they're missing a lot of their key parts, and as well, she's more of a Young Avenger than an Inhuman, so I didn't want to group that together there. But just food for thought. If you wanted to bring her on as a natural protection, she does have a taunt and a strong heal, and you have her higher than the rest of your other characters, she can definitely soak up damage for sure. But that's pretty much it, guys. Those are some of the character combinations that I can bring up here. What I'm probably doing is sticking with Abomination and She-Hulk, Gamora, Adam Warlock, and then gonna play it by ear with Hela, and maybe potentially taking a look at Yo-Yo if that's needed. But I mean, I think that's gonna be good enough, guys. I think those two combinations of Gamma, Infinity Watch with Hela should do the trick. Minerva if needed, but I don't think I'm gonna be needing Valkyrie and Mighty Thor, just because they are less leveled up than the rest of the other counterparts, right? So that in a nutshell is preparation for the event, guys. We're going to be going through it. Like I said, what I do recommend when you're doing the event, though, however, is to refresh at least the 50 cores per day, about 4 times a day. So that way you're getting additional energy to farm the nodes. And then naturally, because there's going to be more shards being unlocked, we should have a decent shot of getting a 2 or 3 on Cosmo. But, I'm going to definitely make a video on that, depending on how the map turns out. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But, definitely exciting. It's unfortunate it's only 7 days, but I mean, these are still some of the best free-to-play events in terms of what's coming, just because the shards are there readily and available, and it's gonna be part of the new Nowhere heist team. Excuse me, the new Nowhere team. So it's gonna be exciting just to kind of add that in with Nova and the rest of the gang. So, anyways, thank you as always, guys. Do appreciate you checking my videos, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.